Hello, I am Anupam Francis. I'm a PM on the OneDrive and SharePoint team here at Microsoft, and I'll be talking to you about the metadata services in Microsoft 365, specifically the SharePoint taxonomy and content types. So, if you're already familiar with taxonomies, content types, and are looking to learn more about what's new, this is the session for you. Over the course of the session, I'll be talking to you briefly about taxonomies, content types, and why you should consider using them in your organizations. Next, I'll take you through all the modern experiences that have been built recently. Following that, I'll talk to you about the new APIs that will be available soon on Microsoft Graph. And after that, I'll be taking you through some of the new capabilities that will be available with Project Cortex that will make metadata management easier. Let's get started with taxonomies. A taxonomy is a hierarchical classification system. It allows you to define and classify a concept consistently. And the hierarchy allows you to understand a concept's place in the overall structure and how it relates to other concepts. Enterprises tend to use taxonomies to manage their content. By using taxonomies for content management, you can improve the retrieval, management, and reuse of your content. SharePoint has a taxonomy service known as the term store, where you can define a collection of terms at different levels, define properties for them, and make them available to your users so that they can tag the content that they generate or interact with the relevant terms. And this content in SharePoint can be anything, ranging from documents and libraries to list items, pages, and even user profiles. So if you want to improve your content management, consider using a taxonomy and defining the metadata that matters. This metadata can be business groups, geolocations, organization structures, specializations, or more. By using a taxonomy, you improve the consistency of your metadata. If everyone uses the same metadata and refers to the same concepts with the same names, you can improve the findability and discoverability of your content. And if everyone in your organization can easily and quickly find what they're looking for, your organization becomes more productive. But there is no one size fits all solution for taxonomy implementations. Different organizations will use taxonomies for different objectives, and SharePoint has the flexibility to help you meet your specific needs. Firstly, SharePoint's term store allows you to determine the scope of your terms. If you have terms that have relevance across your entire organization, you can define them centrally and have them available to all sites. Conversely, if you have terms that have very niche use and are relevant to only a particular site, you can do that as well. Next, SharePoint's terms allow you to control who can add terms to a term set. Term sets can be configured to be either open or closed to user contributions. So if you've got terms that you'd need to centrally manage, you can consider marking the term set closed. But if you'd like to open it up for user inputs and allow decentralized curation of your term set, you can do that as well. Next, SharePoint's term store allows you to support multiple languages. So if your organization works across geographies and is multilingual, you can define default languages and all working languages that are relevant to you. And doing that, you can then define different translations and synonyms for all the terms in your term store. This then makes your end user experience tailored to their specific language. And finally, you can choose to crowdsource potential terms by using the enterprise keywords feature, where users can organically add tags to the keywords and you can then curate them and convert them to managed terms. Another pillar for your content management strategy could be content types. Content types, as the name indicates, is representative of a type of content that you use in your organization. With a content type, you can define all the metadata columns that matter, add templates and other settings, and once defined, make them available to lists and libraries. For example, let's say you work a lot with contract documents. You can then define a contract content type. For this content type, you can then say that the required metadata could be counterparty names, type of contracts, and any expiry or renewal dates. Once defined, you can make this content type available to a list, and that would then allow your users to see this contract option. And when they select it, get any templates and also surface the metadata that they'd need to fill in. This has multiple benefits. First, you can define your metadata contextually. So instead of relying on uh, inflated folder structures or using different libraries, you can create multiple content types, add them to the same library, and handle many different kinds of content in a single location. Next, it improves standardization across lists and libraries. If you have content types that are relevant to broad sections of your organization, you can consider managing them via the content type hub. Doing so allows you to centrally define and manage them while publishing them so they are available to all your sites. Next, content types can be descriptive of content but independent of file format. So let's say you need all your business plans to have the business unit and project name as required metadata, but you don't want to confine your users to any one file format and want to support multiple ones such as Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, or PowerPoint presentations. You can do so with content types. And finally, with this descriptive and consistent content type associated with all your content, you can use that as a parameter to automate your workflows using Power Automate. Now that we've revisited taxonomies and content types, let's talk about what's new. All the recent and upcoming updates are around four broad areas. The first is administration, with new experiences for the term store and the content type management. The next is end users, with improved tagging and filtering for SharePoint lists and libraries when it comes to managed metadata columns. The third is for developers, with a new set of APIs coming to the Microsoft Graph for taxonomy and content type operations. And finally, a set of new capabilities that will be available with Project Cortex to make metadata management easier. Starting with the admin experiences, in the modern SharePoint Admin Center, under Content Services in the left navigation, you'll see the new term store and the content type gallery. The term store is an updated experience for you to organize and manage your enterprise terms, while the content type gallery is a new experience for you to manage enterprise content types and their publishing, which you used to do from the content type hub. For both these experiences, you don't need to take any additional effort to get started. All your existing global terms and enterprise content types will be available here automatically for you to manage them. Coming to the end user experiences, tagging is now modern with a new tree control that allows your users to navigate the hierarchy and find the terms that they're interested in. Filtering is also improved with two new views. A tree view that again allows your users to navigate the hierarchy, and a list view that limits filter values to only those that are actually used in the underlying list. Let's take a look at these experiences in action. The new term store, as mentioned, is available under Content Services in the SharePoint Admin Center. The first thing you'd notice is the new tree control that allows you to easily navigate the different levels of hierarchy in your taxonomy, starting from term groups to term sets down to individual terms. Another thing you'd notice is that the number of terms is not limited to 10 anymore. The modern term store supports the loading of up to 50 terms and gives you the option of continuing to load more while persisting all previously loaded terms, making the navigation of large hierarchies much easier. Selecting a term brings up its properties, starting with its translations, synonyms, and descriptions for each of your working languages, and other properties, such as whether it's available for tagging and any custom properties that you may have defined. The modern term store supports basic operations such as creating terms, updating them, and moving them, all of which have updated interfaces, including moving, which gives you this new panel experience for you to identify the destination. There are also advanced operations such as pinning and reusing terms that I'd like to talk about. Organizations tend to create duplicate terms to represent the same concept but at different positions in the hierarchy. This can create a lot of management overhead because you'll have to keep making the same changes at multiple locations to ensure they stay in sync. SharePoint's term store supports pinning and reusing of terms, which are effectively linked copies. If you pin a term, what that effectively does is create a linked copy of the term at a chosen destination in your taxonomy, and changes made at the source also reflect at the destination. While reusing a term is a linked copy that allows changes to reflect from both the source and the destination. Let's take a look at these. In my term store, let's say I have a term that I want to pin. In this example, I want to use corporate taxation both here as well as a different location in my taxonomy. I can choose to pin the term by selecting pin, choosing the destination. Let's say I want it in the finance department. After selecting my destination, I say pin. You'll notice that the affordance has immediately changed to indicate that this is no longer an independent term. You will also be able to identify this term at the destination with a pin icon to indicate that this is a pin term. Now let's say I want to make changes. If I go to the source and make an edit, such as adding a synonym, and save it, you'll notice that I was able to do that at the source and the change reflects. If I go to the destination, you'll notice that the change that I made is already available here. This is the advantage of pinning terms. Since this is a pinned term, you'll notice that I do not have any edit operations available at the destination. If I had reused the term, I'll be seeing those edit options here, and any changes I make here will also reflect at the source. Let's now take a look at the content type gallery. The first thing you'll notice about the content type gallery is the new list view that gives me the list of all the enterprise content types in my organization. I can easily explore and identify the content types that I'm interested in with the option of sorting to view them in an ordered manner. I can choose to filter them on each of these dimensions. And I can also choose to group them to view them in an ordered manner. If I find a view that works for me, I also have the option to save custom views. And after that, I can easily switch to those views and get started. Selecting a content type brings up its details. In this details page, I can view the category of the content type, the parent, and by selecting this information icon, I can also view its inheritance up to the system and also take management actions such as the creation or addition of site columns. I can choose to either create a completely new site column from here and add it to this content type, or I can choose to add from an existing site column. Once I make the changes that I'm interested in, I can then manage the publishing of this content type across my organization. To make it available to all sites, I can choose publish. And if it's a published content type, I can choose to either unpublish it or push any new changes once made. These modern administration experiences are already available in your organizations, and we'd love to keep hearing your feedback and making these experiences better for you. Now that we've taken a look at all the admin experiences, I'd like to talk to you about the modern end user experiences. In the SharePoint list, I have location, which is a managed metadata column. I can now choose to add a tag. To do so, I select the desired document and I open the details pane. Here, I can see all the properties that I can specify for this document, and location is the value I'm interested in. To tag an item, I can either use the type ahead suggestions to get everything that matches the string that I've typed, or I can choose to navigate the tree using the new tree control and get to the desired value. Once I've identified the term I want to use, I can select apply and the term is saved. And you can see that the tag is now applied. Filtering has also been improved. When I open the filter pane, I now see the managed metadata column with its values. If I want to go deeper with respect to filtering, I can select See All, and I see the two new views. The first view is a list view that gives me a collection of all the values that are actually used in the list items available. I can choose to select a value from here, or if I'm interested in navigating the hierarchy of the related term set, I can switch to the tree view. And that brings me again the new tree control that allows me to navigate and find the filter value I'm interested in. And with that, I can filter for my term. This makes tagging and filtering a much better experience for managed metadata column in SharePoint lists and libraries. Now that I've taken you through all the experiences that are already available in your organizations, I'd like to spend some time talking to you about some upcoming updates that will make the experiences better, starting with the site level administration of your terms and content types. Under site settings, if you select term store management, you will see this new interface that allows you to organize and manage your term store. It allows for the representation of global term groups as well as site level term groups. One change that we've made is that we'll be bringing an upfront affordance for you to create a site level term group. If you already have a site level term group, you'd be able to view its properties and details easily, very similar to the admin center experience. In this interface, you will be supporting the navigation of both the global terms as well as the site level terms. And if you have the necessary permissions as a group manager or contributor, you will be able to make changes even to global terms. Similarly, we'll be modernizing the administration of content types at the site level with a gallery view very similar to what you've seen in the admin center. It has the same benefits with a list of the content types and the ability to filter, sort, search, and create custom views. Selecting a content type again allows you to view the details, the inheritance, and also choose to create or add existing site columns. And since content types can be created even at a subsite level, you'd be able to view the source of the content type. And if you have the necessary permissions, you'll be able to access them from this interface. Another upcoming improvement is the column creation experience in lists. When you select Add Column, you will soon see a new Managed Metadata option, which is far more discoverable. On selecting it, you will see the familiar column creation panel, which allows you to specify the name and description of the column, and you can choose to select a desired term set or term. This experience would be very similar to the experience you saw earlier with the new tree control that allows you to quickly find the terms that you're looking for. Once you select the desired term set or term, you can then choose to define a default value if desired. Selecting a default value is also a straightforward experience. Once selected, you now have the option to add additional parameters to the column. Some of these include changing the display format from listing only the term in the list item to showing the term plus its parents. You also have the other options such as allowing multiple values, allowing users to type new values if it's an open term set, and so on. Once you've made all the necessary selections, you can save, and that makes your managed metadata column now available in the list. Now that we've covered all the experiences, I'd like to switch gears and start talking to you about the extensibility of the taxonomy and content type services. There has been a lot of feedback asking for REST APIs for term store management. And we're happy to announce that the new taxonomy APIs are available in the beta endpoint of Microsoft Graph. Let me now spend some time taking you through the various entities. It starts with the term store, which allows you to represent the entire term store level properties. And you then have the group, the set, the term, and a new entity called relations, which models pinned and reused terms, which we discussed earlier in the admin center walkthrough. The operations that are supported are standard create, read, update, and delete operations for each of these entities. Discussing the term store entity briefly, you can see that the properties it has are the default language tag, which represents the default working language, and specification of the other working languages. The group entity allows you to add a description and also define the scope. So if you have a global term group, you can specify global here. If you want a local term group, you can specify site collection here or the other allowed value system. Coming to the set entity, you'll be able to create a description as well as localized names. And if you want to define custom properties, you can do so using the properties and key value pairs. As with a set, you can define the children and the relations. Coming to the term entity, you can now define localized descriptions, localized labels, and also define custom properties. And since terms can also have their own hierarchies with children, you can also define children and refer to their relations. Now coming to the relations entity, as I mentioned, it can be used to model the pin and reused relationships. So the allowed values for relationship are pin and reuse, where you can define the source term and the destination terms. Let me now show you these APIs in action. So here I'm passing a GET request to the term store, and I will get the term store level properties, which shows me the default working language and the other working languages. Now let's say I want to create a term group. So what I will do is I will pass a post request and in the body I will specify the display name with the desired name for the term group. And as you can see, the term group was created successfully. Now let's say I want to create a term set within it named integrated circuits. What I will do is I will use the groups GUID and then pass a post request where I specify the localized name. So as explained, I wish to create a term set called integrated circuits with the language of English. And as you can see, this set was also created successfully. Now let's say I want to create a term within this set for the very large scale integrated circuits. So what I will do is I will reference this term set. I will reference this term set and pass a post request to the children's endpoint where I specify the language tag, the name, and the flag that this is the default label. As you can see, this term has also been successfully created. So at this point, I have a term that just has a default label and I want to make some changes. So I will pass a patch request. To do so, I will reference this term and in the body, I will pass those properties that I'm passing the patch for. So specifically, I'm adding a description for the English language and I'm updating the labels to indicate the default label as well as this alternate label or synonym saying VLSI. And from the response, I see that this has also succeeded. So now, if I go back to my term store UI, and refresh it. I can see the new term group, project domains, with the term set integrated circuits, with the term very large scale integration, and the updated properties of description and synonyms. With these new APIs, you will be able to power all your custom solutions and use the term store in the way that best suits you. Shortly, content type APIs will also be available at the beta endpoint in Microsoft Graph. In this API model, we will be updating existing entities. Specifically, the content type, column definition, and site entities will have new properties added to them. The operations that will be supported are CRUD on content types, as well as supporting the publishing and unpublishing of content types. Let's take a glance at some of the new properties that will be available. For the content type entity, you can see that we will be defining a base, which allows you to define the inheritance of the content type, and also additional properties such as the position of columns, whether it is a document set or document template, base types, and also a flag propagate changes, which you can use in any update request that will allow you to specify whether you want those changes to propagate to all derived site content types and list content types. The site entity will see a new external columns property, and the column definition entity will again have a bunch of new properties that will allow you to define the source content types. So let's take a look at some of the sample requests and responses that you can expect when these APIs become available. The first, you can see that if you're interested in reading the site or list content type, you can reference them with the GUIDs to get the details of the content types. If you're interested in getting the allowed content types or applicable content types for a particular list, you can also get that with the get applicable content types for list API and passing the list ID as a parameter. And this is very useful when you're attempting to work with specific document libraries or lists. Following that, if you decide to add a site content type to a list, you can do the add copy API call, which allows you to copy the content type from the site to the list itself. And finally, if you're working with a content type hub, you'll be able to manage the publishing with the publish and unpublish APIs, as well as check the publishing status for an API using the isPublishedAPI API call. Next, I'd like to move on to some of the new and exciting capabilities that will be available with Project Cortex. With Project Cortex's intelligent content services offering, we will be aiming to make your metadata management efforts much simpler. There are a bunch of new features that will be coming, and some of those that are related to taxonomies and content types are specifically the term store reports. These reports are a set of composition reports that help you understand your term store better and will help you take informed decisions in its management. The other feature is content type push, which allows you to choose specific content types that are available in your hub and enforce them on desired hubs and associated sites. So what that does is that it will make those content types automatically available to those hubs and associated sites, as well as add them to any new lists and libraries. And finally, there is a new import format for term sets that is based on an industry standard SCOS that supports richer import files and specification of properties. Let's take a look at these experiences. Let me begin with the term store reports. These reports will be available in the SharePoint Admin Center under the reports option in the left navigation. The first report is the term store operations report, which gives me a trend of all the operations in a 15-day period. This report allows me to take a quick look at what my top operations are, look at the trend to identify if there are any unnatural patterns, and if desired, I can choose to generate a report for specific operation types in a 15-day period. The next report that's available is the term store composition report, which gives me a distribution of enterprise keywords to manage terms. Enterprise keywords are a good way of identifying candidates for managed terms, and so you can take a look, and if the volumes seem healthy, you can then explore all the available keywords and choose to take the bulk action of making them managed terms right from here. So I select the keywords that I'm interested in, choose the destination in the global taxonomy, and quickly manage my keywords. The next report is the distribution of open versus closed term sets. It is important for an organization to stay on top of their open term sets because that can lead to inflations in term volumes. So this view can give you a quick look into how many open term sets you have, and if required, you can quickly take the decision of converting them to closed from right here. For example, if I want department to no longer be an open term set, I can choose to convert it to a closed term set. This ensures that I limit noise in my taxonomy. And finally, we have the report on terms without synonyms. Synonyms help your end users disambiguate tags when they're trying to classify their content. And so, the more synonyms you define, the better the tagging that your customers will do. These reports together will help you take informed decisions while managing your taxonomy. These reports are just the first step, and we will continue investing in analytics to make sure that you have all the data you need to make your taxonomies effective. The next feature is content type push, which is available in the content type gallery. If I have content types that I want to ensure are available to desired hubs, I can do so from this experience. I identify the content type that I'm interested in, either by scrolling or searching for it. So let's say that the request for proposal is a content type that I want available to all my hubs. I select it, and in edit, I see the option to push it to hub sites. Pushing a content type to hub sites ensures that A, these content types are automatically made available to any newly associated site with that hub, and B, whenever a new list or library is created in those sites, automatically adds this. This takes away some of the ambiguity and uncertainty in ensuring that your content types of importance are available for consumption to your end users. To do so, just select choose hub sites, pick the hub that you're interested in, and save it. Once done, whenever you create a new list or library in an associated site with the selected hubs, it will automatically add those content types in a couple of minutes. Just to show you what that would look like for an end user, this is a newly created library that had a content type pushed to it. And so you see that after a couple of minutes, they would see the new quick start guide option, which is a content type I had pushed just a little while earlier. And also, they would see the custom view created for the new content type. This ensures that you are able to make the content types of importance in your organization consistently available to your users. And finally, we have a new import format for the import of term sets. This format is derived from SCOS, which is an industry standard for defining taxonomies, and customized to SharePoint structure of term store, term group, and term sets. The advantages of this new format are that it supports multiple term sets in the same file, as well as the definition of custom properties, which then means that you can define richer import files and make the process of importing complex taxonomies simpler. This starts paving the way for you to easily adapt third-party taxonomies and bring them into SharePoint. With that, I'd like to do a quick recap of all that we've covered in this session. First, we have all new modern experiences for administration with the term store and content type gallery, as well as the improvements to end user experiences of tagging and filtering, which are already available in your organizations. You've also got some updates coming soon for the column creation and list, as well as the site level term store and content type gallery. The taxonomy graph APIs are already available in beta, and we'd love to hear your feedback. The content type graph APIs are coming soon. And finally, with Project Cortex, we'll be getting a slew of new features related to taxonomy and content types, specifically the new reports, the import format, and the ability to push content types that will make metadata management easier. All of this is driven by your feedback. So we'd love to hear your feedback and make sure that we keep building a product that serves your needs with the best experience. If you enjoyed this session, we'd recommend that you also take a look at some of these sessions. If you're interested in learning more about managed metadata, do check out our session on getting started with metadata and taxonomy on content. If you're interested in Project Cortex and the content understanding capabilities, do check out the sessions on adopting the content capture and process automation services and the step by step on building models